Wait.
All right.
Give me a second.
Here we go. Welcome to another. Oh, there we go. Here we go. Welcome to another episode of the Average Pastor Podcast. I'm Mark. I'm here with my pastor friends, Jake and Jeff, and another average pastor, Jon Turbett, our special guest. Nice. First episode of 2026. We're back here in the Dodge living room. Got my slippers on. It's cold outside. Feel like Mr. Rogers.
Christmas tree right behind you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Why do you still have your Christmas tree from January?
Totally.
So tacky.
Oh, man. Yeah. Jake, you're getting a little too comfortable this episode.
That's the third one. If my eyes closed, I'm just praying.
Yeah.
Jake, you're an endurance sitter.
I feel like getting tired. Your sitting is this...
I need to do more sit training.
So anyway, we got Jon Turbett here. Jon, we're gonna get your backstory, hear your story, but how's it feel being on the Average Pastor Podcast? I mean, like, this is a pretty elite. It's not exactly
a milestone in your life.
The breakfast of champions here, but how's it feel?
So actually, my family loves the podcast, and my wife and my daughters watch. And when you guys had first asked a few weeks ago and I couldn't make it, they're like, Dad, they're never going to ask you back. Like, it's like the coach tried to put you in and you said no, and that's it.
You're
and then
benched forever.
Yeah, I got asked again. And so their only, advice was, hey, don't screw it up. We really like the show. So
Yeah. So your kids listen to the Average Pastor Podcast.
Yes.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
So Jon, we're going to hear your story.
It's more than I
you
can
guys,
say for my kids.
Nobody in our family listens to this. My daughter only listens if she gets mentioned, she gets paid. So that's
she's listening.
But she doesn't listen. Just people tell her when.
Which kid?
I can't say their name. You're trying to bait me in.
Well done.
So anyway, all right. Are you good? You can see Jon okay and hear him?
Yep.
He's good?
Yep.
Okay
Just make sure you're up on the mic.
Sure
If you look over at Mark, then you're not on the mic.
Okay.
All right. Well, Jon, I'm going to start with this question before we get your backstory and here's.
Wait, you should give his basic profile.
Okay.
He is a pastor
we'll get to that first. But first I want to ask this question. What is the Average Pastor? What can you tell us what this is? The Average Pastor Podcast.
We've been waiting to
your
find out.
interpretation of that. What is that? What is the Average Pastor? What do we mean by that?
I read the book and our staff went through it maybe a year or so ago. My takeaway was it's having a heart of being humble and lowly, like Jesus talks about. It is loving him so much that you don't see yourself as a big deal, whether that's as a pastor or as a person or a detective or whatever that is. So I know some of the application goes to pastoring, right? But it felt like it's just all Christendom, kind of same thing. But it's being so enamored and taken by Christ and realizing what he did that I'm not a big deal, which is just pushing back on everything in my, unsaved spirit. But the applications in normal life pastoring, they're pretty significant.
Cool. That's pretty good.
I should write that down.
Yeah, we're get that down.
Now we know.
That's awesome. Yeah. Well, now that we've set the low bar of average, you don't have to be amazing on this podcast to be on this podcast. You can join your Average Pastor friends. We're going to hear your backstory, which is actually very, very cool. So give us the backstory. Tell us a little window into your life and kind of your build up to why you're sitting here and how you got here. But so give us the backstory.
Born and raised in Cedar Rapids, so not far from here. Graduated high school there, undergrad at Coe College in Cedar Rapids.
What high school did you go to?
Kennedy.
Okay.
I was a Cougar. Graduated in 92, went straight to Coe College, did undergrad there, met my wife Missy there, played tennis at Coe, and then went on to law school at Iowa. So I've got ties to both Cedar Rapids and Iowa City. And big plan was to be an FBI agent. And somewhere in that, it got a little short circuited, just detoured. I ended up as an agent with the state police. So came out of law school and pretty quickly went that way. So I was married to Missy and we were having our first child, and the state tells you where to go when you're with the state police, kind of like the military or something. And so it was Dubuque, Iowa. And so we landed in Dubuque in 2000 and found a church and got involved with church there. And so here we are 25 years later, still in Dubuque. We're working on being Dubuquers. I don't know if we are yet. That's a really touchy thing in Dubuque. I think you're supposed to be born, go to high school. There are all kinds of things. And so we're trying really hard. 25 years we put roots down. So it feels like home. And now we got to be part of a Veritas church plant that started, I think actually over 3 years ago. We opened the doors about 3 years ago.
Well, so is this accurate? So at some point, and I don't know, I don't know why I have like October of 2021 in my mind, somewhere in there. We met in the foyer at Veritas. I remember before, like the first time I met you, you came to a service. I feel like you were with
That's right.
your family, and you're like, "Hey, I'm John. I'm just would love to meet up sometime."
Do you remember that?
Oh, totally. I remember where we were in the foyer, and you're just like, "Yeah, I'm just going through some stuff. Would love to get together and talk and pray." And then you and I don't know if at that time you guys had started streaming. I don't know if it was after that you started streaming Veritas or if that was happening then. But we met up and you kind of shared a brief thing. Would love to meet up, and then yeah, after that we started connecting. So, do you remember that?
I remember it maybe a little differently, but I do remember it really fondly. Yeah.
Okay. So at some point you're kind of, in between some ministry stuff, and you guys started a group of people gathered to stream Veritas.
Endearingly called
services.
the basement dwellers.
The basement dwellers.
Yeah.
So tell us that. How did what happened there?
So the way I remember that, we came down to service in Iowa City. My son was going to Iowa at the time. He was part of Salt Company at your church. And we just saw great things going on in his life and in his heart. And thanks, man. And so we came to church. We'd visited maybe sometimes before, but for whatever reason, I don't know what you preached on. I saw you in the foyer, and I think I was at a little bit of a low point. We were just going through some stuff, and you were really kind. And you actually said, "Can I pray for you?" Which, by the way, has always stood out. Now, when I get done with service in Dubuque, I try to go talk to people and make it a point to just say at the end of whatever we're talking about, "Can I just pray for you?" Because of that. So you think about the impact of praying with someone for 2 minutes, in the lobby of your church. Huge for me, Mark. And so I think at that point, I think it was after that, Mark, I wrote an email into your general catch-all basket at Veritas, is how I remember it. And I did not ask permission from anybody, most importantly, probably my wife in that, and just said, "Hey man, you guys seem to have a really good thing going there. My son's really growing. Would you ever think of planting a similar church and maybe one of these Salt Company things in Dubuque, Iowa?" And I assumed it would die there. Now, the backstory on that is Travis Newman, as I later came to be friends with, and he's now a pastor at our church, was the one who picked off that email and did not delete it. In fact, must have forwarded it to you, Mark, because I had a response in my mind within like 24 hours or 36 hours, and I was floored.
First time ever.
Yeah, sorry. Did I just set the bar way too?
It's a miracle.
Yeah. But
We knew the Lord was at work.
Yeah.
It was fast. And the next thing I knew, within like a day of that, we met in Jake's lobby at the coffee shop there. And I think we talked for 2 hours, Mark. And near the end of it, I was kind of floating this thing about a church plant. And I think you kind of gave me a quizzical look in my mind. And you're like, "So what is it you want us to do?" And I think my answer was, "I'm actually not really sure what I want you to do." And I think we walked away saying we would pray about the potential for a church in Dubuque.
And then at what point did you guys start gathering some people to watch services?
So if I've got that timeline right, I think it was like October, November of 2021, you and I met, something like that. And I remember it was like right around the first of the year, end of the year, first of the year. I want to say it was like January of 2022, we actually started. And I think I told you guys, I know we've gone really nowhere in terms of planting a church. How do you feel if we just stream your service and we're going to stand when you stand, we're going to sit when you sit, we're going to take communion, we're going to pray. We're just going to, act like we're kind of there at Iowa City with you. And you guys were like graciously like, sure. And so we just did that for a while.
And then it grew and then what happened from there?
I remember you guys, I was getting to come down and spend time with your elder team, I think, every few weeks. And it was funny because the basement dwellers, as Jeff said, that is, I think, what we got dubbed. I would, after church, we'd get done watching you guys on TV, we'd pray, and they would say, hey, what'd the guys in Iowa City say? Are we going to have a church or not? And I'm like, they said we should pray some more. And everybody would kind of look around like, okay. So then like 3 or 4 weeks would pass and I'm like, hey guys, I'm going to go down and meet with Iowa City again. And they're like, I'd report back and they're like, so are we going to do a church? And I'm like, they said we should pray some more. And that was like the ebb and flow. My recollection is for several months. And I got really tired of being the guy coming back saying, yeah, there's really no new news. We're just continuing to pray. We're just going to keep praying. We're going to wait on the Lord. And it was such a great time just for me. Just like you guys were, it was like, hey, if this is going to happen, it'll happen in the Lord's timing.
Wow. And I remember launching, at what point in there did we launch a salt company? We had a kickoff at Dubuque. And I just remember, one, like, I don't know if it was a preview, but we packed out Blades Chapel there at the University of Dubuque. And at Dubuque, there's a few different colleges there.
Yes.
And
we've got University of Dubuque, we've got Loras, Clark, Emmaus, we have NICC, and not far away, we have the University of Wisconsin in Platteville. So about 6 schools or so, really, really close.
Yeah. So we did a kickoff there on Dubuque campus and was blown away. I mean, there were hundreds of students and clearly Dubuque would never be a dot on any map for like strategic university town. Let's make sure to get there. But it just seemed like the Lord was doing something. And so, yeah, from there, the SALT kickoff and this thing progresses into a church plant. And I think as leaders, Jeff, do you remember what we were trying to work through is like, who's going to lead that? Like we have no staff, so that the whole like, well, let's pray. What? Yeah.
Yeah. What was going on down here?
Yeah. I mean, it is a waiting on the Lord. I mean, you've talked about it as our superpower, or whatever, that I don't want to mislead that it wasn't that we were 24/7 fasting and on our knees, over this, but it truly was waiting on the Lord and certainly prayerful, because we didn't see, you were still in your full-time career. You were not able to pastor full-time. We didn't know who would. And so there were different iterations of, Austin came up. I mean, we had different ones coming in to help strengthen what was clearly going on. But it just seemed like we could see something in the fog, but it wasn't very clear what that was going to be. And so conversations with you about, do you take early retirement? Or it seems like you're the one that God has laid this on and you have already been leading it. How do we help you just assume that position? What God's already seemingly doing in you and through you, how do we make that more official and all that? But it wasn't clear, right? I mean, there wasn't an easy, pipeline for that, so it took us a while, but we didn't stop the ministry. In the meantime, people are coming, people are getting baptized, they're coming to Christ, so.
Was it growing when it was in the basement?
Yeah, I think slowly. I want to say we started, I remember still having sticky notes, Jake, where I'm like, who might come to the basement? And I was hoping I could hit like 20 for whatever reason, right? And I did maybe scratch out like 20 names. And I think we had weeks where there was 12. And then I remember the basement maybe getting to, 30 or 35. So it was very slow, but there was some traction going on.
And we kept almost apologizing because it was like, you're watching this on
Yeah.
It just seemed like it's like when people take VST classes or something. I always apologize. I'm like, yeah, we're not intentional about this. It just feels like you're accidentally in on it. So the fact that the Lord kept using that, I'm really grateful, because we were not careful about it.
So-
It wasn't strategic the way we were doing it.
Yeah. And so James, you were part of this. So we were sending staff up there. Austin Claver was like the first year, basically was an interim salt director, started salt company, but lived in Iowa City and would just commute up there.
Yep.
Grant Cliston would
Big part of it.
big part of it, leading worship, helping with Sundays and
we'd have
Thursdays.
a caravan that would go up. There'd be a preacher and a worship leader that would, just
drive up every
drive
week
up,
and
get real familiar with 151, that road.
Yeah.
James was huge. Ryan Hamby, Clave, Shane Kelly was really instrumental. You guys, we felt, can I just say, as ragtag as maybe you guys are discombobulated as you felt, we felt super loved. I could have wished in my spirit things moved faster at times, but I look back, I'm like, it was just perfect, right? The Lord was so kind. But you guys, we would regularly say this feels like New Testament church building. Like, you guys were just loving us from an hour and 40 minutes away. And it was actually crazy to be part of.
So at some point in there, Travis Newman, who's an average pastor, we got to get him on sometime. He decided to, step away from, Iowa City and just raised his hand. We're like, who wants to go? Who's willing to go move to Dubuque from Iowa City, which is a hard thing to do. And Travis, raised his hand and his Hobbit sensibilities kicked in and he said yes to moving up to Dubuque, and he and his wife Gabrielle and their family and so they had been up there for a couple of years. He's taken on a new pastoral role in Marshalltown.
Yeah.
So there's all that. But so Travis was up there as kind of another pastoral presence for a couple years, 3 years.
Yeah, I think it's somewhere between 2.5 to 3 years. He came as kind of the Swiss Army knife, was kind of his description, your description, and it totally played out. Trav has been an interim salt director. He's been worship director. He's been primary preacher at times. He's been elder, connection group leader. Literally did every job in the church that you could do.
So, okay. So now this gets to let's talk about your backstory. So you're 25 years as a detective, you would say?
Yes.
Tell us what you did. What does that mean, detective? What is state police? What is detective?
Is there specialities in detective? Is it just I'm a detective over whatever issues come to my desk, or I specialize in drug trafficking or homicide, or
both? Like pastoring, you could just have a pastor, you're like the solo guy and you're pastor over everything, or you could be in a church that's big enough where you've got a family pastor and a youth pastor, and right. So detective work is the same. If you're in a smaller agency, you're just a detective, and you might call it like a general criminal detective or whatever, whatever comes in, it's yours. As the agencies get bigger, and that could be like the Iowa City PD or the Cedar Rapids PD, they're big enough, they can specialize a little bit. So you could have a sex crimes detective or a homicide detective. But you come on and it's kind of like, well, you don't know exactly where you're going to get assigned in that world.
So what did you do? What detective were you?
So I came into what we would call, I think the easiest way to call it's the state police. It was the Division of Criminal Investigation. So my paycheck was from the state of Iowa. So I didn't work for the Dubuque Police Department or Dubuque County. Those are layers of law enforcement. You've got your local law enforcement, what you'd call your police department in both your cities. Then you'd have the county sheriff's office, which kind of patrols the rural areas. We're like that next ring of law enforcement. So we're pretty big. It's the state police. We're all over the state. Our patrol division would be the state troopers that you guys see out on the interstates a lot of times. Those are the guys I go through the academy with. So they're my counterparts that are in uniform.
Okay.
I'm a plainclothes detective alongside of them, just like Iowa City or Cedar Rapids has patrol guys and detectives.
So what did you do? What kind of detective were you?
And so the way the DCI works, the Division of Criminal Investigation, I was on 24/7 call out for 25 years. So I kept a phone or a pager. When I started, it was a pager, which was funny. And but that could go off anytime. Thanksgiving, Christmas, kids play. and when that goes off, you drop everything and you go to where they tell you. So your call would be to your boss, or he'd call you and I'm like, what's up? And he's like, you're headed to Postville, Iowa. There's been a murder.
So you would travel throughout the state of Iowa.
Yes. So I was geographically assigned typically to about a quarter or a third of the state. I was in the most northeastern part of the state, like Highway 20 and up, all the way as far west as like Fort Dodge or a little further, and up to the northern border.
Okay, so the phone goes off. There's a murder in Postville. What do you?
It's like
what happens?
It's like get there now. You're
So-
moving.
All I know is cop shows, which is sure super accurate. Is there like jurisdiction, because you're dealing with a city detective or a county detective in a state? Like, whose
Is it
case
like
is
the
it?
movies when we
Is there-
see there's like
like who
people fighting over who's in charge?
Yeah.
Okay, if the system is broken, it could kind of look like that. What you see on TV, like where the FBI guy shows up
Yeah.
and he's like, "All
We're
right,
taking
everybody,
over."
like, I got it."
Yeah.
Okay, well, if we did that, so we're called a rural assistance agency. So my phone only rings to the extent that local police or county police want my help.
Yeah.
And so over 25 years, I built a reputation in a big chunk of the state. So if they had a murder, they don't have to call us. But if you're good and they like you, they're going to call and you're going to get dispatched out. So a little bit like you could kind of tell mid-career, like, how am I doing? By how much your local agencies were asking you to come out and help them.
Okay.
Mhm.
So if there's a murder in a city, they call the cops. If the cops want help, they call you.
A little bit. Yeah. I think this sounds really arrogant. Sometimes, the state police guys would say, hey, we're kind of the 911 for 911. That's what they would say. If that,
Wow.
So
Yeah.
if you're local, and that's not to say, I want to be really careful. Like Iowa City, I interned at Iowa City PD during law school, and I regularly had relationships with the Cedar Rapids PD. We teach down there, but they're great. And they're every bit as good of detectives as we are. Our primary bread and butter would be all the small towns. Iowa is just full of, as you guys know, right? The super small towns that don't have detectives.
So do you spend a lot of your work in rural Iowa?
Yes,
Okay.
very much.
Let me brag on you a little bit, because you have a teaching. What is it?
We'd say it's like a research and training group.
Okay. So I went to one of his trainings, and I sat in on it. You guys, Jon is amazing
What was
at
the
what he does.
training?
You had, I just remember there's like 50 to 75 law enforcement people in uniform, and Jon is like training them in
Interview and interrogation.
So are you the guy that goes into the room and rolls out the tools of pliers and knives of like, we're going to rip your fingernails off?
Okay, you can
yes,
you can
but yes.
Wait, so there's some of your interrogation stuff that's like public record, right?
Yes.
So you can find is it true that
Like a
you were
transcript
on, wait,
of
is it
interrogation?
true that you were on Dateline?
Yes.
Oh, tell the story.
Jake's sitting up.
Yeah,
That was
sorry.
a Jake's
All of a sudden,
Link in the show notes.
link in the show
Yeah.
How much
There
of
you
this? What can you tell us about?
Sure.
So if stuff that's, I assume
Stuff
it's
that's played
public.
out,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's public.
Seems like if it's on
records.
Dateline, we're okay talking about it on our little
Yeah, just go ahead and tell us and your family and the 10 other listeners.
Yeah. Okay, so we're in at this point. What was? Yeah,
Dateline was super cool. It had very little to do with me. It was a neat case down in southeast Iowa. It was a cold case from the 90s. It was a love triangle. So you had the victim, Corey, was engaged to a woman for a while he was simultaneously in a relationship with another woman. So we all know how that, that doesn't go well for lots of reasons. And so the other woman here was, in her mind being promised, hey, I'm going to leave my fiance or something. And that didn't happen fast enough. And so she goes over one morning while he's laying in bed, and his fiance is gone and bludgeons him with a baseball bat, and then leaves and discards the bat in a ditch. And it goes unsolved for, I can't remember, like maybe 20 plus years. I don't know.
Wow.
whoa. And so what was your what?
So this is great. I am not the initiator of this at all. So the way it goes is a nurse at a hospital is talking to a police officer totally unrelated. So this is now present day, right? And she just shares that she may have heard something as a young girl with, that leads to a homicide or knowledge of a homicide, and like, hey, is that actually anything anybody cares about if a little girl actually saw something but waits a lot of years? And the officer's like, yeah, it's something we care about. And she tells a little bit of actually hearing the person who committed a crime kind of make a confession. So as a little girl, she just happened to overhear this, tells this police officer years later, decades later or whatever. And then at some point that's getting tabled, and we're like, wow, let's move on this. This sounds crazy. That's an unsolved homicide. And so we take her story and then we try to corroborate that. And that's how the case got wings.
Now, surely in the love triangle, she had to be a suspect early on. How did she get past that?
Yeah.
Because in my experience,
you're right. I mean,
you watched so many shows.
Yeah, I mean,
dude,
clearly,
you know this
the jaded, girl for that.
Yeah, I think she was on the list. I mean, at some point that comes out, right? That there's a relationship going on. Your victim also was maybe known to get around a little bit otherwise. Is there drugs involved? Are there drug dealers? Those were all rumors in most cold cases. All that stuff circulates, right? So, if it was Jake Each, we'd be looking at every possible shady person you've ever dealt with. Well, maybe that's who killed Jake, So
wait, so pick up.
It's Mark.
So you're right, Jake. She was in there and she'd been interviewed, and but at some point there was at least enough at that point or there wasn't enough to say, hey, we could conclusively say.
How does that play out in a world like human nature, pride? You go in and you solve a cold case someone failed to solve. Is that like we're just rejoicing that justice is served, or you made me look bad?
No, I think if the hearts are right, it's generally we're just glad that we got to the truth.
Yeah.
Right.
What blows my mind though is a human's ability to deceive. Like you think about that when we've all pastorally maybe talked to somebody who's had a long-term affair or something like that, and your mind is like, how could you possibly have kept this so under wraps that even the people closest to you? So now you think about, you bludgeoned a dude with a baseball bat and held that under wraps for 20 years.
Yes.
Yeah. So how does the human, I don't know how I could keep a secret like that for 4 minutes, well alone 20 years. You know what I mean? Like that's a huge secret.
Yeah.
But it happens, right? I mean,
it does happen.
It happens.
So it does happen.
So you pick up the story on how's it? So you're interviewing this girl. She's now older. She overheard the
20 years later.
How's the story? So what happens?
So I do get brought in at some point, and this is a team effort. So these cases are worked by lots of people. So I'm one small cog in this big thing, but I do happen to get involved at that level and start to vet this this new information. And now we believe we've really got something here. And so ultimately my work is on the interview and interrogation side. That was my area of focus in my career at this point. And so I was told at some point, my efforts would probably be, the trajectory would be to sit down with the suspect, with the woman who was believed to have committed the crime. I knew it might be months or whatever other legwork we needed to do. We needed to corroborate things. That was going to be the trajectory.
Which has got to be a little bit.
I did.
That had to be imposing though, because again, you're thinking this woman has looked steely-eyed into a whole lot of people's eyes for 20 years and never broke. Like,
how did the conversation go? So you sit down with her.
Yeah.
Do you go to her house, knock on the door?
I do. Yeah. A couple times. So I get conversation with her. So
you have to get her you have to get her to a point of she voluntarily is going to sit down and share and talk to you, right?
Yeah, always. I think sometimes the public, I know my own family and friends, when they find out the kind of work that I did, they're like, wait, people don't have to talk to you? And I'm like, well, no, you never have to talk to police. Whether you're arrested and read Miranda rights, you wouldn't have to, or whether I just show up on Jeff's door and say, hey, can I talk to you about something? Jeff
to
can
know.
close the door.
And this is a lot
Good
of
to
your
know.
training. The
It
session that I was a part of, you're basically teaching law enforcement how to.
This is a great pastoral skill.
So John,
I should go to that
I was-
training.
I was actually going to ask, like, it could sound funny, but seriously, so in pastoral work, you're sitting down with people a lot of times trying to get to the root of the issue, the heart of the issue. There's
Right.
lies and deception happening. What could pastors that are trying to help people learn from a
That's what I'm
expert in
saying.
interrogation?
Yes.
No, I do think I think people are. I think they were amazed both ways that somebody who was doing pastoral work was actually active in law enforcement work, and I think people at the church, I don't know if they're intrigued, but they're also a little like, wow, okay, but wait, you also interrogate, right? So that cuts both ways. It's an interesting,
Right.
but I actually think the connections are far closer than people think. In training people and having done that for a lot of years, those skills are really about being kind and asking good questions and listening and showing respect and empathy, all the things that I would say we do pastorally because of redeemed hearts in Christ. You can teach those skills to somebody who's not a believer, right? I do think people ask me about that and I'm like, well, I actually feel like you have a leg up sometimes because of faith, because you should be being sanctified into things like patience and empathy and being a good listener. These are all biblical things, right? That as Christians, the Lord's working on. So I actually at some point thought, well, this is pretty cool. The Holy Spirit's actually making me better at my job in a lot of ways.
Oh, yeah.
So you have sat down with a lot of people. Can you tell when someone's lying?
So we get asked that a lot. The answer is that the best research on this says that cops can actually detect deception based on sitting here looking at you about 55% of the time. So it's literally a coin flip if I'm just going off what we would call nonverbal cues of deception. So the lay people, by the way, you guys, 53% of the time in studies. So we beat you by like 2%. So
we should play Two Truths and a Lie.
Yeah. So it's
try to beat the detective, dude. All of us against him.
So it's a huge misnomer that cops and the shows play on this, right? Yeah. It's really cool that we're human lie detectors, but the best research would say that's really more fallacy, and we need to stop kind of promoting that idea. Sure. Now, what I can say, and I think this makes sense when we tell the public this is what we tell law enforcement. The way that you can tell if someone's being truthful or deceptive is by their words. Right? Words are great. And this is where I love the parallels with scripture and truth, right? We deal in truth and word, right? God gives us his word and it's truth and we can read it. And when you talk to people, they commit to a story. They say something. Now you have a couple possibilities. You can check that against other known things outside of that story, right? External kind of things. But if I sit with you long enough, that story checks itself internally. So do you say something different in hour 2 than you said in hour 1 or hour 3 than you said in hour? And so we are always looking for, gaps and inconsistencies and things. And we're not trying to trip people up. I just talk to you long enough that you really reveal what's going on.
So I watch,
or the lies.
Don't you think? And I think that's great common sense. And I want that to be reassuring to the public that there really is no tricks. People are always like, yeah, what are the things I can use on my kids? And I'm like, I don't know, sit down and talk to them for 3 or 4 hours, right?
Dude, seriously, there's I'd never heard you say that, but in 1 Corinthians 4, because Paul in 1 Corinthians is being accused of ill motives and different things. In his absence, they've created this profile about him that's not true. So in approaching that to them, he says, now, brothers and sisters, I've applied these things to myself and Apollos for your benefit, so that you may learn from us the meaning of this saying, nothing beyond what is written. The purpose is that none of you will be arrogant, favoring one person over another. I mean, one of the things about that verse is what he's saying is, go my words. What did I say? Do I back those up with my life?
Yes.
And instead trying to read between the lines and try to figure out motives and all that, he's saying, earlier he has said, you think you know my heart. I don't even know my own heart. You got to go by what's objective. And I think that's always been a good check on pastoral instincts too. Like, don't pretend like you're able to see what you can't see, but listen carefully
listen,
to words, you know what I mean? And anyway,
Dude,
that's great. And I feel like scripture's the same, right? We would say this as exegetes, right? Or people that try to teach or preach, or even just Christians, as you read your Bible, we're checking it internally. It checks out, right? No scripture is going to contradict other scripture. This is basic kind of interpretive lens. And we also believe that the external, let's say, whatever is out there, that tree and the sun and my relationships, they will also prove scripture to be true as well.
Right.
So I feel like when I'm interviewing and interrogating Jake, you're just taking this truism that God has given us, and you're just letting people's words check out internally and externally.
So when somebody is telling a lie, and you know, and you're just like working it. So I actually got on YouTube and watched a whole trial that you did, and it was I'm sure you'll remember. A farming accident. My wife had a farming accident. I'm in the house, and she, and I remember watching the whole drama of it. I felt like I was watching, like, I don't know, true crime or True Detective, the HBS special. Like, you're in there, and it's like showing you can find this stuff on YouTube.
Is a lot of your job in a court?
It is, and I didn't know this when you're becoming an officer. I would say my time was split. We would love doing field work, as we'd say. That's where you're called out and you're knocking on doors and we're working the case. That actually becomes a pretty small amount of my job, even though you love that. Then you're back at your desk and you're documenting what happened, and then you're in the courtroom talking about what happened. So you are in court quite a bit.
I interrupt. Go
ahead.
No.
So the amount of work watching you in the courtroom. And there's like showing footage like in the trial of the interrogation and the stuff. Like, what was so suspenseful about it was, as more like I'm on the journey, it's like this unfolding drama culminating in, will this person be convicted of murder? And you get to the end and you don't even know, will the jury convict this guy? Even though you're like, as just someone watching it, like, this dude's so guilty.
Well, but now I want to know: did he kill his wife?
Well,
or was it a farm accident?
Can you tell the overview of this?
He
story?
was convicted in district court, and it's currently sitting in kind of the last stage of appeal. It's called a post-conviction relief, but he was convicted a number of years ago in that case, and we're waiting for a judge's ruling on one of the last phases of appeal called post-conviction relief.
Could you ever get pulled back in?
You could. So a judge could decide that needs to be retried. And I actually could, whether I'm retired or not, it doesn't matter. Anyone can get pulled in to be a witness, whether you're a cop or an ex-cop or, a citizen. And so I could, any of my cases I worked, it's fair game to be back in a courtroom.
So but he's incarcerated now, though, even through that appeal process.
He is right now.
Yeah.
So I could talk about this for a long time. I do have a question that
What?
I'm fascinated, John. Like, you have, you've had a career for 20
about 25
years, and you're bringing that to an end to go into pastoral work. Why?
I think it would be much the same as you guys. Maybe the timing's just different. When I listen to your stories as I get them pieced together, it seems like a lot of you guys, you're in undergrad, then you're maybe going to seminary or whatever, and you're maybe in the network, and you're feeling this call on your life, right? We would all say that's ultimately God providentially draws all of us to ministry. So for me, I had a lot of good mentors. I did some teaching. I got to do a little preaching, eldering. And at some point I was just feeling this call on my life, Jake, where I'm like, I love being able to teach and preach and disciple. But, I'm like, man, maybe pastoring, like I'm looking at these guys that are pastoring, and I would meet guys like you. And I'm like, I just love that work. It just seems amazing. Lord, do my gifts, would they lend themselves in that place, or should I just be content? And these were conversations with my family for many years. Am I just meant to, and not just, right? Should I be completely content to do a little teaching, do some discipling with people, and just, that's good.
Yeah.
And these were conversations, Jake, we were having up until months ago.
Somebody could say that's a safer approach. I'm really encouraged by you, John. I've talked with people that they're kind of on the end of a career and they feel like, I've felt called to ministry, but that ship's kind of sailed. And it's like, well, you're still alive. And to see you be faithful
speak to that.
Word.
Speak to that. How old are you, first of all?
I'm 51.
51 and starting and ending a career at the height of your expertise and success. You're stepping into ministry. What I was talking to one of my good friends who's like wrestling through a similar thing, like what would you say? I mean, that's a pretty massive life change and stuff.
I want to say the answer is really simple, that, again, the Lord was providential in all this, and there was no, like anything in life, I wasn't going to get away from whatever my calling was. Right. And I think honestly, maybe I can look back and say, man, was I not faithful sooner? Right. I remember early 2000s talking to my pastor saying, hey, maybe I go to seminary now. Right. Like I was early in my career, and he's like, he gave me, is it Spurgeon who says, if you can do anything else, do it other than pastoring? I think, doesn't Spurgeon get credit for that quote?
Yeah.
And I was told that. And I'm like, well, I really like policing, so I guess Spurgeon's got me out, right? I'm Spurgeon. I didn't pass the Spurgeon test, but I couldn't shake it. And yes, I think, and in full transparency, go ahead.
No, Paul would have failed the Spurgeon test because he could do all things.
Wow.
That's a good point.
Wow.
That's a good point. And so I shelved it, and I'm like, I'm going to do these other things, and I'm good with that. I mean, average pastor stuff. Like, I just loved, okay, so I get to preach a couple times a year at my church, or I'm going to help with eldering or whatever the Lord has me do. That's great. But I felt like I couldn't quite shake, that. And seeing your churches and being there, right? I mean, that just was kind of gas. I'm like, man, if I could just in some way maybe be part of a team that gets to love people and shepherd people, that would be amazing, Lord. But I'll tell you, I mean, up until fairly recently, I assumed maybe the ship had sailed, and that providentially the ship had sailed, and I was not meant to be a pastor.
I gotta say, on like talking behind his back with him sitting right here and a camera rolling, but it was always encouraging to me, John, that even sitting in your truck in a parking lot after a service or whatever, that you never all of a sudden felt this urgency, like, man, the clock is ticking. I gotta forget what anybody else is saying, or forget family duties, or forget my career, just run pell-mell. There was always wisdom. You were always listening to others and listening to advice, because those were not unspiritual things to think about. Hey, how could I maximize my career? At what stage would it be the wisest to step away? How can I make sure my wife and children would be in alignment with that? Hey, how about the church in Iowa City? What are they thinking about the timing of all it? Like, you were never just impulsively saying, this is my moment, this is my time, I've been looking forward to this. I just loved the temperance, I guess, that you had through all that. It gave all of us a lot of courage to be able to say, we're not just pouring kerosene on something that's, because there's a lot of people that all of a sudden have aspirations that should actually take more time, and I just felt great about your lack of impulsive drive on that.
Because
it's a huge decision, right?
Yeah, because sometimes you feel like, is going into ministry a young man's game, but it's like often in our youthfulness, it's like, I want it now, I want it fast, and it's not displaying the traits that qualify good pastoring.
Totally. And we are part of a network. Let's be honest. And we can talk about this. I mean, Veritas Dubuque totally kind of fell in backwards into the SALT network, right? I think we can all. I think
join the club with Cedar Rapids.
Yeah.
Iowa City and Cedar Rapids. They had a night, got passionate. They had a baby.
Unplanned pregnancy.
What do we do with this child?
Wow.
Some people wanted the child. Some people didn't want the child. The child has grown up. The child now.
That can still kind of
the child now got a job and hopes fun thing.
The font is still in gray on your shirt. I'm still sure.
I'm looking at James. There is no like bzz, we don't buzz anything out here.
No, that's on there.
Okay, that's good.
That's out there.
But we're in this network where I'm not saying this in any kind of negative, but it is a little bit of a young man's game, right? As I didn't understand the network when I came to Veritas Iowa City and said, hey, could this happen? But as time has rolled along, I get the normal trajectory now, right? We have these young men that maybe come through SALT, they're residents, they become SALT directors, right? And then maybe they move on, some do, to maybe pastoral work, right? And it's a little bit of a young man's game, in particular in the SALT network. It has that vibe, right?
And you walked in, we were kind of at the tail end of our last podcast. Really want to figure, like, what's the tension? Because I love a church that gives young people pathways and opportunities and for ministry. And how do you hold on to that without losing the value of, hey, I've lived some time, I shouldn't take a seat on the bench. I'm only 50, I'm like,
right.
Well, I think the thing about Jon that I see in you is in those 25 years, you're in ministry. You're not,
right.
What are your three things, like internal calling, external affirmation,
opportunity?
Yes.
I feel like those three check marks of finding God's will for your life and calling, I see, during that time, it was so obvious. Sitting in, clearly in all the churches and ministry contexts you've been in, I think you were displaying gifts of what I would call almost like just spiritual leadership, or maybe call it like some apostolic giftings of like new pushing back of starting something new, like you starting this church in a basement. That clearly wasn't. You have like the gifts of a church planter, and so I just think you've seen that in all these different contexts you were in, and you had some great pastors that, like,
I did.
The whole, maybe you could speak to the Simeon's Trust stuff and how your heart for preaching the word. And I think you do a great job of teaching young guys how to teach expositionally. Can you speak to that?
I can. I did have great mentors, and you guys are now, everyone in this room is on that list. Jake, I got to sit in your preaching debriefs and took a lot out of that. That was amazing to see you with your team. I've talked to you guys in the early
What did you get?
I was just holding it back.
What did you get from us?
I watched you guys anyway.
That's funny.
Jake, you had such a great.
So anyway, keep going.
In the early 2000s, I was at Galena Bible Church. That was the first church that Missy and I landed in when we got to Dubuque. And I was offered and sent to a Simeon Trust preaching workshop, which has now really melded pretty tightly with 9 Marks. I think people know. So I was just listening on the way here. There's the Preachers podcast, and then there's the 9 Marks podcast, and they kind of cross, work. But
and then there's the Average Pastor podcast.
And there's the Average Pastor. And
right in there.
Which is awesome. So anyway, I went to my first Simeon Trust preaching workshop. Actually, they had Kent Hughes. Do you guys know Kent Hughes from College Church? And I later learned how amazing it was. But he came to Galena for like 20 of us because our pastors had a connection to Kent. And he came and for like 3 days did a preaching workshop. And I just got to go. I was a Sunday school teacher. So I have Kent Hughes. It's like a room like this size, guys. And Kent Hughes is like 5 feet away. And I'm drinking a Mountain Dew, listening to him talk about preaching. And I'm like, okay, this is amazing. And what I was exposed to in those early 2000s was a couple things. Biblical theology, or maybe we'd call it like redemptive history, right? This is a way to look at the Bible and talk about it where it's all one story, right? And Christ is at the center. That blew my mind in the early 2000s. We all have had that watershed moment. I'm reading is it Clowney, The Unfolding Mystery, Graham's Goldworthy, these books that just are piecing this together. And I'm like, okay, somebody should have told me this like 20 years ago. This seems pretty important. And then it was into preaching, and the two really dovetail pretty well, right? And the Simeon Trust was, I learned this term exegesis versus eisegesis, right? So just letting God speak. So what's the emphasis of the passage, and how does it just roll itself out? Well, that's what you would preach. You don't come in with John's 3 C's on marriage or, whatever, I'm like, so I actually just go to the next passage. And a lot of this I was taught just, sequentially kind of just work yourself through books, because you won't miss anything then, and you won't cherry pick. And I'm like, well, that sounds amazing. And so that's what I was exposed to in the early 2000s. And I happened to then go back to a church like Galena Bible Church, where I just saw that done every week by multiple pastors. And I'm like, it's awesome. And it was very average pastor kind of stuff. And I don't mean any diss on my pastors. They just faithfully got up and sequentially preached us through books. And I watched, I'm like, yeah, I can. And you guys call it like what, big idea kind of preaching or whatever. I hear that it's the same thing, right? I was learning that in the early 2000s. And I went on to a Simeon Trust workshop or preaching workshop that they now do all over the world. I went to one in Chicago. And I was just blown away by that.
What Simeon Trust, is it a process for preparing a sermon? I've seen the diagram, the long way home is the safe way. And what can you just say what it's a.
Yeah, I hope Kent Hughes and David Helm don't listen to your podcast.
They don't.
We're sure that they're not average pastors.
But it may have changed a little. I still keep up pretty well, but there was like 6 principles of exposition, and they are, like you said, the ones I remember really clearly. There's a little picture for everything. Like one's just a line, and that's the line of Scripture. And we don't come in above the line of Scripture, meaning you don't add to it. And you don't come in under the line. You don't get to take away. And you hear this, over 60 minutes, somebody teaches that concept and you look at Scripture. I'm like, okay, well, yeah, that's clearly biblical. And the next one is, you take the long way around, right? So you don't go to Dubuque in 2025. You start in Corinth back here. And what was Paul saying to his audience then? Now, maybe after we work through that, we'll get to Dubuque in 2025 at some point in the sermon, right? And I'm like, well, that makes great sense. So it's just a series of little diagrams that go to these concepts, which when I read about preaching, they've been around. Good preachers have been doing these things for a while. I think the Simeon Trust is particularly good at breaking down the playbook into just like 6 little digestible kind of pieces so that, a knucklehead like me who'd never been to seminary can be like, wow, that seems like something maybe I could do.
So if you just Google Simeon's Trust diagram, you'll see it. Like you start with the text, exegesis up to them. Jeff, maybe just say what exegesis, eisegesis, what do those words mean?
Yeah, just exactly what John was saying, that we want God's word to come out. We don't press our truths back in. So eisegesis is more where we've got this idea. I want to preach about, like you talk about, marriage, or I want to preach about morality, or whatever. So I have this idea. Now I got to look through my Bible to make sure there's a Bible verse to back that up or whatever. Well, sometimes you can twist and turn and pervert the Bible to back up what your idea is. That's eisegesis. Exegesis is you're going to let the truth emerge. It comes out of
Okay,
the
so
Bible.
you read the text out, like the exit sign is out of. We want the meaning to come out of, and eis is the Greek into. So exegesis, them. I see them, then, like you said, and then the over theological reflection, connecting it to the gospel, getting to the cross, and then coming down to today, us
finally
now.
Today.
At the end of the game. So sometimes we want to go right from text to us now and 2025 and how to have a good marriage. But
and we all do this, I'm assuming, or maybe, but our people do. You read your Bible reading plan and you read for 10 seconds. You're like, I know what that means to me today in Dubuque in 2025. And I think the Lord is just like, hey man, I hear you guys say this. Let there be a little mystery and let the Lord work, right? You don't know. So how about you just spend time at my feet and it'll unfold for you a little bit, right? And we'll get to Jake Each in 2025, right? And his people. And I love that. I think it's way more than these academic terms of exegesis, eisegesis, right? It's like just this curiosity and this love of like, Lord, teach me what you have for me today. Don't let me assume, in my pride that I understand this passage, I think.
So back to a little bit. Oh, sorry.
It was not important.
All right, I'm just going to roll with it. So just more biographical. So now it's been how many months since you officially walked away from the DCI?
September 11th, kind of a strange date, but that was not picked by me. It was not.
Didn't you go out with a couple mic drop? Didn't you go out with some big time? He went out on top.
Humbly, I had there was a couple trials in the summer, and we ended with a trial in northeastern Iowa that I thought was one of the more interesting cases I had, again, been a small part of a big team, and there was a conviction at trial. And that was,
Can you tell us what it was?
It was a 14-year-old girl, really sad, who had been taken to a very rural location, a farm, and dropped there and kind of left there by what she would have considered the trusting adult in her life. The trusting adult leaves her there, and then the guy who owns the house, she's never seen again. So he's charged with her murder ultimately, because that's the last place that she's ever known to be alive. And so after that was a cold case, I think that was about 7 years old, maybe since the time of her disappearance. And so I was part of a team that worked on that, a big team, and it went to trial this year.
And we don't know how it ends.
He was convicted.
Oh,
and I just always, on these, you can ask questions.
So you interrogated this guy?
Yes, I went down to Georgia twice and found him in Georgia.
you gotta say, like, this is like HBO True Detective. I remember the time we hung out, and you're like, I was just in Atlanta. I was like, describe it. It was everything I imagined, like a house all by itself.
It was.
You're going in. You had backup or what?
A vest.
Can you set it up? I mean, tell us the story.
Yeah, I'll say, again, kind of whatever was said in open court, and this was talked about
Jeff,
a lot.
if you could go.
Yeah, no. I'm in.
It was, he lived in rural Georgia. And so I flew down there, worked with local law enforcement. So that's a local police department, county sheriffs, and even the GBI, which would be the Georgia Bureau of Investigations. They're the state police. And we locate his house. It is out on kind of the red clay dirt road kind of scenario. And myself and a deputy made the first approach the first time I went down there, talked to him for several hours, backed out. There was no arrest. So that was the first story we'd ever gotten. He'd never been interviewed, and brought that back to Iowa to kind of digest everything that he was willing to tell us. Months more of investigation, and then back down to Georgia, reset with an even bigger team. I think if there was concern the first time we went out that this could be dangerous, I think my thought was going to a door a second time is increasingly dangerous, because now he's going to see you coming. He knows who you are. The first time, I'm an insurance salesman, right? Who knows? So he's going to open the door, probably not coming, to hurt you or anything. But so second time, we just, you take that even. There's a heightened.
What does that mean practically? You wearing a
vest? Both times. You would have. Yeah, you'd take all precautions. So you'd have a vest on, and you certainly have a gun. And I'm going to the door with someone else, and then you've got others. The area's pretty well surrounded. Yeah. So.
And how did that second one go?
Good. The win is to always talk to people. So again, no tricks. I always love to kind of knock down and dispel any kind of the misnomers. I watch TV too, and it's fun. But the win is just to always get someone to talk, because time will, we think, reveal truth.
What's the most accurate cop show?
I don't know. Well, you can do your first 48, the ones that are actually like real, where they're foaming around. Those are interesting and good, obviously. And then beyond that, everything's fictionalized to some extent. Yeah. I'm sure every doctor watches the doctor shows, and probably
There were weren't there a couple ones in the mid 2000s, the HBO specials,
the Wire, and some of those
Wire.
I think, your law enforcement folks would consider like The Wire now. That's got, as a Christian, be careful. I'm not endorsing that at all. There's obviously language and lots of stuff there, but it's probably closer to, some police would feel, maybe a little bit of an insider's baseball.
What about the one, there was another one, True Detective, was that?
Yeah.
And would be another one you're not recommending, but I'm just saying for accuracy.
I think that,
are we going to go?
We should, we were
what
talking
about Mayberry RFD? Is that pretty close?
What about Andy Griffith's show?
Rank them.
We get to
Chicago Fire.
Don't you think it'd be pretty good to do a sitcom on a church staff?
I do.
Like The Office.
Yeah.
Okay, here's where I was going to go.
Which one's most accurate? Church staff?
So we're all obviously leaning in on all these stories, and I want to know what would that, rural road going to Georgia, would that, that's so in my mind, the question is, okay, 3 months, a little more than 3 months out from that life, regrets? You know what I mean? Like what's it like to step away from, we're all like, man, wouldn't it have been great to have 25 years as a DCI guy or whatever. I'm just saying, like, what a lurching difference in careers that now you've made. And at this age, how's that settling now? Just 3 months in, you know?
Really well. I always thought you guys had the cool job. You know, I don't know how it gets any better. You know, this morning I got up and I had a staff meeting, which you guys have been doing for years. Our staff is slowly growing. So I meet with 6 or 7 people on our staff and we sing a song and we pray and we talk about it's our salt worship night that we invited our whole church to. So we pray for that. And then we talk about all the pancakes we're going to make at the end of it. And I love it. And Christmas Eve service, and we break. And I'm like, that was super glorious. You know, we got to do something. And so I don't have regret. Yesterday I stopped in a DCI office and I saw some of my colleagues, and it's great. And they tell me they got called out over a holiday and here's what's going on. And I listened for a few minutes and I'm kind of like, hey, who did the interview? And I'm like, you know what? I bet you guys did great. You know,
Wow.
and my replacement's already picked. Her name's Michelle and she's wonderful. She's a better police officer than I ever was. And I'm like, the machine rolls along. The Lord in his providence is going to continue to protect the state of Iowa. And now I get to shepherd people. Yeah. And I'm working on Isaiah 8 to preach on Sunday, and it's glorious.
And I mean, I love you're somebody who's been on the front lines of just dealing with some hard stuff and human depravity. And then going into ministry, there is a sense where like that is the more front lines of human depravity and brokenness and darkness. To continue to be an agent for good is it's helpful even to give us perspective on what we've been doing and what it's all about.
I agree with that, brother. I do think so. Yeah, maybe those stories I tell you, that can I tell them once in a while. I know people love to hear those stories because it's like TV, but those are outliers. You know, much of what we do in law enforcement, it's unfortunate. People drink too much. They use drugs. They get in love triangles. They get mad at each other. They do things they wouldn't normally do. That's the norm. I think TV, you think every murder is a guy sitting in some spooky place in a basement with pieces of string and cards. And he's, that's not realistic, right? Most of the murders I worked a lot of murders was, somebody got mad at somebody and killed him. And then they very sloppily tried to cover it up. And and when you actually sit down and talk to them, most people, they know they did something bad and they're wrestling with that. And so that's interesting, but that to me is almost not real life, right? That's not real life. Like someone wrestling with daily sin, or I'm trying to figure out how to love the Lord and love his word and read the Bible and, how do
So Jon, one thing that's so amazing to me about you and is that when I hang out with you and I hear your heart for people, even people that you're interrogating, and you're not jaded, you're not, this could have been, you're not hard-hearted about it. Like, I just feel like your heart has stayed soft and just your love for people. And, I don't see you as someone who's like, I asked, in different situations, a lot of people in law enforcement are crippled by something, where they sit, and how do you, somehow it seems like you've been able to maintain your just soft heart for people and humanity. Can you speak to that? I mean, how?
I think Christian police officers would feel there is a tension, right? The business, Jeff, I know you have a son who's in the military, right? I mean, these jobs, whatever they are, fire, police, military, there's a toughness to them, right?
Yeah.
And there's an expected toughness to them. And to some extent, it's got to be that way. I don't know how to get around that. You guys could speak to that, I'm sure, better than I could. But it seems like they are just tough professions that require a tough exterior. And so I think the wrestle for me for 25 years, and part of this was like, man, is it time to go? Was at the same time, you have this, you're working in the other way. Jesus is softening your heart constantly, just like he is yours, and you're being sanctified. And I'm like, am I going to become a worse police officer because my heart is getting softer, right? And so am I going to be a liability at some point? But the other side of it is I was sensing, I do teach interrogation, and what you're teaching people to do is be kind and patient and listen and ask good questions and not come with a heavy agenda. And so in one sense, I would say faith and sanctification was working in my favor. And in one way, I'm like, I could feel my heart just continually, like, everybody, you're moving this direction. I'm like, is there a time when it's time to say, maybe I should go? I wrestled with it regularly. And I think people in all those professions, they must, as believers. I just, I don't know how you're not thinking about that.
Did you ever listen to the guy? He was on Joe Rogan. In the last few months, probably. He was the one that was the whistleblower from the CIA on the waterboarding stuff.
I know who you're talking about, and I haven't listened.
And he came on, but that was what was so fascinating about it is he said none of those techniques worked.
Yeah,
and it was like he came in and it was more just human kindness, getting to know these guys and treating them, just like getting to know them. Yeah. And weirdly, it's not some of the techniques you see that
it's totally
it actually
true.
Made them less likely to.
It's totally true. We cite there's the most recent research by our federal government, about $15 million worth of research that came about 10 years ago. And at the end of the day, if you distill down $15 million of research, it's really be kind, be empathetic, ask good questions, listen, ask more questions.
Well,
it's like biblical.
It's literally. I mean, it's literally biblical.
You get a free Gideon Bible, and they could spend that 15 million a little better. I think,
dude. Totally. But it's very interesting that we put our best and greatest minds on that, and what you come back to is what you guys would do as pastors with people. I feel like. So, and by the way, most of what you see on TV, certainly waterboarding, but even threats and promises, all that would end up in suppressed confessions anyway. So you'd be out. So I think what the general public, if I can just speak out of respect for people that do the job I did, it's actually far harder than you could imagine. In some ways, you're actually trying to get someone to tell you the truth, and you don't have all these big levers of let me threaten you with prison, let me do X to you. It's really, you have to convince a person. It's just, hey, today's the day you should maybe unburden yourself and tell me about this. This would be a good time.
So do you think, this is a little bit rabbit trail, do you think there is a place, because I don't know the $15 million of research, and obviously you're doing, but in a situation of like, I got a limited window, this is a national security issue, there's a terror threat, there's a bomb, and I got to get information. In my mind, it's like, I'm starting to cut fingers off here. Let's just, how do we get to the truth here? Like, I mean, you're saying like, even in those situations, it's just not effective.
I think
that's what he's saying, Jake.
I think Jake wants to do a career change. I think he wants to do the opposite. He's like, I want to.
Let me answer for John. Yes, that's what he's saying.
I'm still cutting fingers off.
Man.
You gotta get the information. You got a little window.
It's a great question, honestly,
yes,
Jake.
Yes, it is.
It is a great question. But the $15 million of research that landed you at those things I talked about, like Ted's Pie questions, we call them, right? Like just good open-ended questions. That all actually started for our international military. That was where that came from. It's called the High Value Detainee Interrogation Group. That's the federal project.
What are the Ted's Pie questions?
Like TEDS, it's an acronym. So TEDS is like tell me, explain, describe, show me, and then pie is right next to it, precisely, in detail, and I'm going to forget whatever. And so you grab a TEDS, a word off that, tell me, explain to me, describe.
If you meet with me in the next week, and I'm like, so tell me.
Use some more detail.
Explain to me.
I'm just like, you got an hour and the bomb's going to blow up. I'm like, well, tell me in detail. Like,
the problem is you get results. I think what the courts would say and the research would say is, sure, you could generate quicker results using those techniques, Jake, but a lot of the results would not be good. People will do anything to make you stop hurting them, right? So the confessions you get and things you would get would just not be reliable. So the long-term game is the other way to do it, right?
Sure.
It is actually a great.
That's why I'm saying in the short, like you only have an hour.
Jake,
I'm trying to get. I want John to say
he's not
there is
going
a
to.
time to start cutting fingers off.
He's not going to say it.
Jake will
He's
not
not
let
going
this.
to say
But I will say, if you want a good read, it's a great book from like World War II. One of the best interrogators in Germany, his name is Hans Scharf. And when they had pilots downed behind enemy lines and he would spend time interrogating them, it was actually revolutionary. He would take them for walks in the garden and spend time eating with them and talking to them. And he got far more information than any
Wow.
other interrogator. It's actually so. I mean,
What's
if
it called? What's the book called?
I can't remember the name of the book, but if you look up Hans Scharf and just
Okay.
put,
Yeah.
interrogator, you'll see there's a book. I've got it on my shelf, but
Hmm.
it would speak to what you're talking about.
So Jake,
Jake, there is
if there's
not
an
a
hour,
person-
if you got an hour, you can go for a walk. You just
see,
like
be a quick walk.
let's go
I
for a
can't
walk.
imagine
So
being
what
a-
I'm hearing you say is,
But if there's 60 seconds,
there's
dude,
on the
there's
clock.
never a time
I want
to
to
do that.
Yeah.
I want to know one person in Veritas Cedar Rapids that's going to come to you for counsel after hearing this podcast. It's a good thing that nobody listens to this podcast, Jake. Because
Well,
wait, when do I
guess
get
that's
to
a
cut?
win-win.
When do I get to cut their fingers off?
He said it's
When-
a win-win.
people are gonna listen to the podcast because I'm gonna change the genre now to true crime,
Yeah.
and we're gonna shoot up the charts.
Everyone's going to be
dude,
asking
no.
for John back. We want, get you yahoos off of here. Get
It's,
John back.
Can we call it true average crime?
Sure, a new
Stick
genre.
with the theme.
Average criminals.
Well, I did bring you guys
Fingerless
a gift
average
too.
You
criminals.
brought a gift.
I brought gifts. I didn't know if that was the norm on the average pastor.
We have
Which
no
it should be. It should be.
Yeah,
It should be. And this makes me feel like Ryan really dropped the ball.
So these are T-shirts. I hope I grabbed a plethora of sizes here, but it's called. This is the logo. It doesn't mean much, but on the back you'll see the name of these are 09, which was just this is internal kind of. I think they call it maybe a little bit of a state police fraternity, but amongst the homicide guys,
no.
09 was our coding for a homicide. So like when you would pull a new homicide case, you would put 09 would be our internal coding.
No.
So the group is called
way.
09. So I brought you guys some 09 merch.
Let's go.
I love it.
09.
Are you kidding me?
09.
I'm gonna be texting
awesome.
Jake.
I'm cutting fingers off in that shirt.
You guys are gonna look
That's not the right
so
look for us,
tough in
Jake.
those
Dude,
shirts.
That is awesome.
Yeah. Wow.
Man.
Wow. This is
You win.
this has been great. Great time. John, we gotta have you back sometime.
I'd love to.
I
And
think it's
I just want to say, man, seriously, thank you to you guys. Not enough time to talk about your influence, but we know in Dubuque, we would not be where we're at. I mean, the Lord is so kind, but he worked very tangibly through you guys and your churches in particular. Jake, you guys sent Pulpit Phil, Music Phil, you guys did, James, right? The whole crew. And we regularly try to tell our people our church is growing. So we're already losing that part of the story for some of the new people, right? But we try to freshen that up and say, man, we are here because of brothers and sisters. being so
and John,
kind.
this is one of the coolest Santa Barbara Veritas in California. Veritas Dubuque was the first church to come forward in support, financial support of that.
That's awesome.
And that's incredible because I know it's not like you guys are flush with cash. It's like that was just a beautiful,
I love
Dude.
that.
like you're letting it just go right through you.
Dude, there's no way. When I talked to Ryan and we heard about that, there was no way we wouldn't jump in. And Claver was actually, I think, one of the first, and we just committed to them. And
Wow.
that's super special for us as churches are planting out of Cedar Rapids, Iowa City. I get to talk to Jordan a little bit, and I'm just like, man, our heart goes out to our brothers and sisters that are doing these things. So
And
yeah,
this is
dude.
a cool, we need more unplanned pregnancies in rural Iowa or smaller towns around Iowa.
Within the confines of marriage.
And with that, okay, Jeff's got to get out of here.
I gotta
Let's
get out
let's give just a John. Can you give us a closing word, a little benediction as we go? Just a word of encouragement to our listeners, to us as we head out of here.
I'm getting ready to preach Isaiah 8 and like 11 through 22, the second half. And then you look, it's such a good word. And it really kind of goes with what you guys talk about being average. But the Lord just says, hey, don't follow everything that everybody calls a conspiracy today. Don't get fearful. Don't be terrified. And he says, the antidote, so you don't go the way of those people, is to regard me only as holy and let me be your sanctuary. It's just I'm like, it's so simple. And as a pastor, I'm like, I just got to come back and bang that drum Sunday after Sunday after Sunday, right?
Wow. Good word. Well, we hope that you guys have enjoyed the conversation. Jake, I'm sorry, I can't unhear the last 15
what I
minutes.
hear you saying.
Anyway, we hope that
we
you
connected.
Yeah. We'll talk after. So hope you enjoyed the journey of the conversation, and we're part of this conversation with friends. So we'll be seeing Jon back, I'm sure. But thanks for joining us. Have a happy new year.